following report has been created from notes and illustrations compiled during a series of studies conducted by naturalists from the Assembly. As is typical of Assembly studies, research was done in as non-invasive a way as possible. The peoples of the island were never contacted. While this gave a more natural perspective, seeing the ecosystem without interference from its researchers, it does limit the scope of study in many aspects. Future studies with more sophisticated technology, such as drones used in the most recent mission, may reveal information that supports or refutes some of the conclusions drawn from available research. This episode is dedicated to Dr. Darren Foster, Dr. Lance Jones, Mr. Hans Joule, Dr. Oye Nakamura, along with Captain Gerard Dupont and the crew of the ARS Atlantis, all of whom lost their lives in the pursuit of studying this island chain thousands of miles from reliable support in the known world. The portal, which has populated Kaimere with flora and fauna from Earth, has only dominion over the territory around the size of the continental US. This territory has moved with the portal throughout history, at times being mostly over the mainland, but is currently in an area spanning eastern Arvel, southern Nikar, Picardia, and thousands of small islands between. When extinctions occur within the territory of the portal, it quickly harvests and repopulates new flora and fauna, which has resulted in a striking bias toward increasingly more recent fauna in the biodiversity of the known world. In the realms beyond, the portal has neither jurisdiction nor interest. Because of this, the ecological cast of characters beyond the known world is far more independent, having a natural ebb and flow of success and extinction, and hundreds of clades without recent Earth ancestors have evolved into a wide range of dynasties throughout the planet's history, many of which are barely recognizable to modern viewers. When the territory of the portal is ecologically stable, it does not harvest. These eras of Kaimere's history are called dynasties. When Kaimeran naturalists have their own name for them, the Assembly uses terms based on the dominant fauna from the known world and the prehistoric eras from which they came, not necessarily when the dynasties took place. The First, or Devonian dynasty, for example, actually coincided with a majority of the Carboniferous in Earth's history. The longest dynasty, and of relevance to today's episode, was the Permian dynasty, which itself spanned most of our Triassic period. A great extinction event throughout Kaimere's tropics preluded the series of harvests which led to the end of this dynasty, and it was actually highly resilient and competitive flora from Earth's Permian, not the fauna, which helped the portal's territory in Nikar and Kairul stabilize and led to the longest dynasty Kaimere has ever seen. While some tropical fauna of the earlier periods remained, mostly in those two continents with small basal generalists, and the large fauna harvested during this time came with significant competitive advantages due to their large size, and they established a stable dynasty right before Earth experienced its own calamity on a scale both it and Earth had not seen before or since: the Great Dying. If you would like to know more about this event, I've linked an episode made by Paleoanalysis discussing its causes and impacts on Earth's history. While life on Earth hung by tattered threads, flora and fauna charged into a golden age of biodiversity in Kaimere. Forests and prairies of horsetail and fern dominated the landscape. Therapsids were the dominant megafauna. Some clades remained unchanged, such as the Gorgonopsids. Others adapted, like the Therocephalians, that became more intelligent and active, and others died out. In some cases, clades from earlier harvests arose to occupy or even compete their way into new niches. The full history of the Permian dynasty, however, is a topic for another episode. A major extinction event, the source of which is currently unknown, devastated most of Kairul and Nikar around 200 million years ago. The survivors were vulnerable, and derived dinosaurs from Earth's early Jurassic flooded the area, quickly driving the few remaining large therapsids to extinction. A large continent was connected to Kairul by a land bridge for much of the Permian dynasty. It broke off before the mass extinction, however, and due to this isolation, was spared the influx of Mesozoic fauna, and the small survivors of this extinction persisted. The continent broke apart, with one section going on to become the polar continent to the north, another being a landmass around the size of the known world in the temperate zone, and the last partially submerged and traveled southeast, known today as the Permian Islands, because assembly naturalists have noted that many of the fauna trace their ancestry to the Permian dynasty. While the Mesozoic raged on and built to the climax that was the Tyrant dynasty, the Permian Islands became a realm of experimentation. What few digs have been able to be conducted suggest a very eclectic prehistory. The volcanic activity which ended the Tyrant dynasty also wiped out the dominant large animals of the Permian Islands, so the megafauna found today are all from lineages until recently relegated to the shadows. There are two primary islands in the chain, each around half the size of Australia. The northern island of Septenia is dominated by tropical and temperate forests, while the larger southern island of Meridia is a lush jungle to the east and arid prairies to the west, with a tall mountain range between. Hundreds of islands are scattered throughout, with one particularly large one on the west of Meridia's dry coast. Excluding the many independent islands, this layout generally makes for three isolated ecosystems, each with a fairly unique cast. There are people on many of the islands, along with Septenia and Meridia, but as the Assembly's policy, no contact has been made in these missions. Thanks to discussions with one Kaimeran historian, Ra Karos, who served as a translator, some relevant information was gleaned or confirmed, but the islanders were not explored in this episode. Eastern Meridia is also called the Great Crocodile Jungle, for this tropical region has seen crocodilomorphs explode in diversity. The region's top predator, called the bear croc Brontosuchus by assembly naturalists, is a massive terrestrial crocodile which, thanks to a powerful tail, is capable of island hopping to a degree and swimming along coasts, enabling it to inhabit many of the tropical islands too. It is endothermic, capable of impressive endurance, although this is principally an ambush hunter. They are most common and successful in Meridia's lush jungles to the east, and do not have a natural predator of their own. Their bite is legendary, especially in conjunction with 8-inch claws, and they are recorded to pull apart armored herbivores and even the door of an assembly bunker. They are quite proficient diggers, helping them go about a wide range of burrowing prey, along with felling trees to get arboreal game or cached kills. Despite being quite derived, they are part of a sister group to Crocodiloidea, which came to the islands during the Tyrant dynasty, and are therefore closer to crocodiles than crocodiles are even to alligators. Many archosaurs call these jungles home. Largest of the Meridian herbivores is the sloth croc. They belong to the same family as the Odaga of the known world. Their cladistics is poorly understood, but most believe they are some sort of crocodilomorph. They have a strong beak over peg-like teeth, and massive arms which they use both in pulling food into reach and also to defend themselves from bear crocs. Despite a ferocious appearance, they are fairly docile. They are also quite intelligent, with fairly complex social groups and vocal communication. Herds of these beasts help keep the main forests open, tilled, and disperse seeds far and wide throughout their range, making them keystone species in this verdant ecosystem. The wetlands of this jungle belong to the Permian tapir Tapirsuchus. Variously classified as derived amphibians, basal crocodilomorphs, or reptile clade otherwise unknown, these large herbivores are bulk feeders of a wide range of vegetation. They are quite aggressive, known to chase down predators and herbivores in their environment. Despite looking ungainly, they are capable of impressive speed in short bursts. The death of 2 naturalists, and injuries of a dozen more, are attributed to Tapirsuchus. Many tropical islands to the east are far enough from the mainland that the bear croc can't reach them. These places are home to another crocodilomorph predator, the winged crocodiles. Despite the name, they cannot truly fly, though their disproportionately long arms do help propel them in a flying stroke. Most of these long forelimbs help them navigate the mangroves and marshes in which make up the majority of the islands, allowing them greater mobility and reach than most of their kin. A species of winged crocodile is also found in the known world, though it seems this family first evolved in the coastal wetlands of Kaimeran and radiated out after the dynastic extinction. The western rain shadow of Meridia's mountains, an arid prairie, and the long coastal island of Oxidia is mostly home to birds, bats, and pterosaurs. This area seems to have been hit hardest by the volcanic ash which catalyzed the dynastic extinction, and all of its megafauna went extinct. Volcanic ash, coupled with waters along the coast, separated them from the crocodile jungle by arid prairie and mountains, culminated in an Eden that herbivorous pterosaurs settled in for. Without predators most of the subsequent history, these tapajarid pterosaurs went on to become fully terrestrial. A whole family has since evolved from this stock, with the largest being the stallion bird, which lives in vast herds out on the prairies. As herbivores from the arid prairie grew in population, it could come as no surprise that a predator should step up to the challenge. This predator came from the northern island of Septenia and is one of the Aborfeltherians, an order of therocephalians whose presence on the island prompted the assembly naturalists to call these the Permian Islands. During the Permian, there were 3 clades of related predatory therapsids in a group called theriodonts. Largest were the gorgonopsids, dominant predators of the late Permian. They also dominated during the Permian dynasty, deriving into fully endothermic and cursorial predators, as a much more fertile habitat than back home could support such a lifestyle. The other 2 groups, the eutheriodonts, comprised of the cynodonts, to which we and all other mammals belong, and the other were the therocephalians. Therocephalians may have gone extinct during Earth's Triassic period, but in Kaimere, the group found a lot more success and diversity. When the gorgonopsids dominated the Permian dynasty as apex predators, therocephalians thrived in second place. Always having to worry about their giant cousins meant that therocephalians were increasingly reliant on intelligence, sociality, and means of defense and predation aside from sheer brawn. On Earth, at least one genus appears to have been venomous. This trait, unusual for endothermic animals, gave this group of therocephalians an edge. A fast metabolism, high intelligence, and venom all had very high caloric demands, meaning that they could never hope to confront the gorgons, who could attain much greater size on far less food. Many didn't bother, instead thriving as small predators. When the great calamity that ended the Permian dynasty struck, the larger therocephalians with their high nutritional demands died out. On the Permian Islands, a group of cynodonts became top predators. They had slower metabolism, lower intelligence, and no venom, so did much better than their more specialized cousins. During the Tyrant dynasty, cynodonts occupied most of the megafaunal niches. The dynastic extinction wiped this slate clean, and most of the resident cynodonts went extinct. In fact, the only living cynodonts of this lineage on the islands is a clade of small burrowing omnivores. The very same volcanic ash that wiped out so many animals on the islands left a bounty of nutrients in the soil. From destruction came abundance. In the northern islands of Septenia, an order of therocephalians called Aborfeltheria exploded in an adaptive radiation. Aborfeltherians are distinguished by having external ears, an unusual trait for non-mammal therapsids, although their ears are positioned in the basal region along the lower jaw, rather than where mammals have them higher up on the skull. They also possess venom glands, rapid metabolism, and highly neuron-dense brains which allow for higher intelligence without compromising their massive jaw muscles. There are 2 lineages of Aborfeltherians on the Permian Islands, both of which have predators and herbivores in their clade. First are the ceratotheres. Although ceratotheres retain the venom of their ancestors, it is mild and used by males when competing for mates. Most of this lineage are the plodding herbivorous palatheres, largest of which is the excavator boar, which can reach 3 tons. Palatheres are bulk feeders, breaking down grass, leaves, roots, and even woody branches in their powerful jaws. Thick hide affords them protection, especially when they encounter bear crocs in their southern range. A group of cat-like ceratotheres make up the predators of this lineage. Biggest of these is the ambush hunter called the horned lion. Horned lions are most common in Septenia's highlands, although they have island-hopped to Meridia, where they are a common predator in the central mountains. Their venom, like most ceratotheres, is mild, and they mostly use their powerful jaws and long fangs to make a kill. The paramacropods are a much more diverse lineage of aborfeltherians. They tend to be smaller, more venomous, more intelligent, and more social. The fanged hares are a common family of herbivorous burrowers, which are now spread throughout most of the islands. Largest of the fanged hares is a bipedal hopper called the roo-hog by assembly naturalists. Roo-hogs are the most common on the dry grasslands of Septenia, but the past million years or so have seen their range expanded to Meridia and Oxidia, where they are among the most common herbivores. While they are quite fast, able to hop at speeds of nearly 40 miles per hour, roo-hogs are armed with formidable claws and tusks, and taking them down is no easy feat. Permian jackals are among the most common species of predator throughout the islands. They are small, social, adaptable, and powerful predators. Like their canid namesake, they can be omnivorous and will eat just about anything to get by. They are quite adaptable, found in forests and prairies, mountains and deserts. As long as it's not too wet or dense, jackals will find a home. While they have been compared to hares on the run, which they do to chase down many roo-hogs, with which they share a territory. They are among the most intelligent of therocephalians. Being an intelligent, social, and adaptable omnivore, it should come as no surprise that Permian jackals were one of the first animals to be domesticated by the arrival of the Permian Islanders around 1 million years ago. Although these domesticates will not be explored in much detail, they have influenced the wild population of jackals. Jackals are now comfortable near settlements, have a wide degree of pelt variety, which has helped them acclimate to new habitats, and are generally bolder and more ecologically aggressive than their original wild counterparts. While it seems that there are several species of jackal before, it appears that now only one comprises the most common predator niche throughout all 3 islands and many smaller ones, at least where it's dry. A cousin of the jackals and hares are found in the trees. Some of these live similar lives to monkeys and tree kangaroos, hopping through the branches. A few are gliders in the forests of Septenia. Around 30 million years ago, some of these gliders developed powered flight. These were the first dragons. Amidst competition with large predatory nyctosaurs, dragons were relegated to the small size and hunting in forests. They could spit their venom, a trait which could weaken prey before dispatching with their fangs. This venom was most potent of all aborfeltherians, with asphyxiating and corrosive properties likened to hydrochloric acid. When the nyctosaurs went extinct, an opportunity presented itself, and before large mainland pterosaurs could arrive, in the evolutionary blink of an eye, dragons got massive. Within 1 million years, dragons went from 3-pound predators with 5-foot wingspans to weighing 50 pounds and having wings 15 feet across. With the arrival of large topagarids like the banshee gull, the dragons kept getting larger. While their venom was most effective against their fellow therapsids, it did inflict enough damage upon these giant pterosaurs, especially when aimed for the eye. Like pterosaurs that launched from a quadrupedal stance, though their long feet and compact build facilitated a more upward launch, helping them in tight spaces. They do not have hollow bones or air sacs, so lack the distance capabilities or efficiency of pterosaurs. By 10 million years ago, dragons had reached their greatest potential, weighing over 200 pounds and having a wingspan of 30 feet. These were apex predators, dominating the skies and open territories. Though they tend to make their homes in the mountains, they could reach speeds of up to 100 miles per hour, so most hunting territories within a short flight from the mountains or prairie mesas. For some 10 million years, the largest dragons changed very little. Although they could not fly for more than a few hundred miles, being built for fast and agile flight over endurance, the islands are all close enough together that at most subspecies might be distinguished. Many small species persisted, including the ancestor of the Vanyu, a small Picardian dragon which either came on floating vegetation or, more likely, through trade, which, while not well recorded historically, does have some archaeological evidence. According to historian Ra Karos, a great civilization in Septenia once existed, although the exact time is unknown. According to the oral and written history of the islanders, this civilization was led by a number of witches. Some think these witches were Kaimerans who migrated to the islands, perhaps to escape the calamity which ended the Age of Witches, but others think that it is more likely that they are indigenous witches, especially since Maku, native Kairulans, hinterland giant, and Klatten of Kaishel all have witches of their own. Regardless of their origin, these witches tamed and domesticated wild dragons to serve as their familiars. By means unknown, perhaps through rudimentary genetic manipulation like that used by the first children, these domesticated dragons were dramatically enhanced in size. The production and potency of their venom was also increased. Air sacs with high-density gas filled their chests to facilitate flight, with a wingspan now typically between 40 and 80 feet, depending on the breed. Photosynthetic cells in their skin helped supplement unprecedented nutritional demands, and they were completely loyal to their lineage of witch kings. For reasons unknown, this civilization collapsed. When the witch kings disappeared, their dragons quickly went feral. The breeds intermixed with each other and with wild dragons, making for massive, intelligent, coordinated, and aggressive predators. In the thousands of years since becoming feral, the ecology of the islands has reached somewhat of an equilibrium. A few animals were hunted to extinction, notably a population of Titan crows which once called these mountains home, but most have adapted. Early on, dragons may have overhunted, but now their population is capped at the available resources, and enough turn cannibal that their numbers are kept in check. The crocodile jungles are not affected, as jungles are too dense for adult dragons to make land, but in other regions, they are the rulers of this archipelago. Thus far, their limitations of distance flight have kept dragons isolated. Many rumors circulate about the possibility of dragons reaching the known world, and what that might do to local ecology, much less civilization which was fortified from attacks against demons, men, theropods, and pterosaurs, not a beast which combines the most destructive potential of all four. But for now, it seems unlikely that they will arrive on their own. In the northernmost islands of Septenia, isolated in the temperate forests, there are stories that a new lineage of dragon riders has arisen, but for now, these rumors appear to be little more than tall tales. Thank you so much to Ian for sponsoring this monster of an episode. This was an important episode not just to flesh out the islands, something I've been meaning to do for some time, but also because it's going to be the setting in one of the novellas of my next anthology, Whispers from Beyond the Known World. As of recording, I'm only a few pages in, but it's already shaping up to be very exciting to work on. Hope you have all enjoyed this first journey to the Permian Islands. Over the summer we will have another voyage, this one to the Jurassic Islands. Already started some early concepts, and that one's gonna be a real treat. Thanks again to Ian. Thank you so much to my Patreon patrons for your continued support, and thank you for watching. Cheers, folks!